Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got a very special guest, Michael DeBar, singer, actor, radio presenter, all-round triple threat, legend. How are you, Michael?
Well, you left out stripteaser.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You know about me? You didn't know about that? Oh.
No, sorry about that.
Zeppelin didn't ever have any opening acts, but I did. I went out there and took all my clothes off.
Well, it's a good way to get noticed, isn't it? It's always a start, isn't it? And, it's like the, Jerry Lee Lewis burning the piano, and then it's over to Chuck Berry.
Absolutely. It's those moments that people remember. Is it
Yeah,
mad moments? Yeah, that chorus is great, but what were they doing? Who are they? What's it all about? And I've
yeah.
never hidden what it was all about. I mean, so that's a good thing. And Miss Pamela wrote the book and all of that. My ex-wife, who I love, to this day, I've just enjoyed myself.
Yeah, you've had a definitely a wonderful life, a very fulfilling, I think, kind of lust for life. If you ever did a book someday, Lust for Life would be definitely a good title for it. And
Yeah,
would
sure.
that be fair to say?
Yes, absolutely. Because what is lust? Shakespeare used it first, not Paul McCartney,
Mm,
Shakespeare. And a lustful life, that's a way of enjoying the moment. I learned very early on that existentialism was really what my persona was. I would live in the moment. Say, hypothetically, I put out an album and it flopped. That never happened. But I mean, if it did, it didn't go all the way.
mm, mm.
You don't let that attack you. It's
Yeah,
very easy to attack artists, and leave them lying in the gutter. Well, I've never been in the gutter unless I really wanted to be in the gutter.
yes, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Detective, because there's a re-release of this wonderful album, It Takes One to Know One, on the Swan Song label, and there's the wonderful band
Yeah.
behind, and this gentleman here I'm talking to. Um, how does it feel to have this album released 50 years later and out to a new generation of fans?
Well, it's fabulous, isn't it? I mean, it would be, and I suppose this is absurd, but if Ludwig van Beethoven was alive, what would he say? What would he say? Oh, I'm glad you like it. And that's really where I am. You see, for me, that music is forever. It's rock and roll music. It's not like went out of time or was not unique and spectacular. Listen, the Detective album is music played by people.
Yes.
Music today are fucking robots, man. You
Yeah.
know, robots playing a robotic electronic, guitar. There's
Mm,
this there's a lot of things in Detective that is like fleshy,
mm.
sweat, and all the other things that happen into your body,
And and a ton of groove, and we'll talk
Yeah,
about that
it's just fun.
shortly. I mean, look, I've read interviews that you don't like listening to anything you have done, but have you broken the rules this time and had a bit of a listen to the album again recently?
Well, I did with Jonesy. I sat there and because I love him so much and I respect him so much, and Steve Jones of the Sex
Yeah,
Pistols.
yeah.
We've known each other 40, 50 years. And I played it to him and he went, "That's all right, Michael. That's pretty tough. I mean, that like goes really hard, doesn't it? I mean, you really going
Mm,
down there and it's like feels very heavy. It's like heavy, like heavy. And
mm,
yeah, it's got a certain like cloud in it. I mean, he's so poetic, Jonesy, really, on
mm.
a Ginsberg sort of level, but he really liked it. And that made me feel just like $100 million, because his music is so precise. He's an incredible guitar player. So I listened to it earlier in order for me to be able to speak to you. And
Mm.
it really, I thought, well, that's pretty cool.
It
You know,
is. It is. And it's like, it feels like that you've got players in this band that are at the peak of their powers.
yeah.
Tell me, how did Detective get together? Was it fairly organic? So you came from England, Silverhead, which we'll talk about, came over to America. Tell us about the formation of Detective.
Well, was there, and I put little bands together and played the whiskey and stuff post Silverhead, and that was really, really fun.
Mm,
Uh, One night, Michael Monarch and John Hyde, the drummer, Michael Monarch, the guitar player, came to the whiskey to see me because wanted to put a band together, and I ended up in a where you go and practice, and I sang a couple of songs, and they both fainted, and I, but they, and the band came together, and Pickett came along, and the bass player was like one of the best rock and roll bass players. I mean, that whole band was really, really confident and very good at what they did, and they're good albums. They're good, but what
yeah.
a swan song, Zeppelin and right at that, Robert's dearly departed child went, and that really shook up the whole Swan Song world because we were just so. I mean, he immediately went home, and um, and it kind of ruined the atmosphere. Not ruined, but it took away the joy of it for
Mm.
everyone. And but we went at it, and we did a second album. I think they're terrific players. And I think they're really good songs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the band landing a contract with Zeppelin's label Swan Song didn't hurt it in any shape or form. Um, do you think the band's association, in hindsight, with Zeppelin hurt the band, in your opinion, or it gave it good publicity in the day?
Well, it's difficult when you do things like that. It's like hypothetically, Mick
Yeah.
Jagger says, "I'm great." Well, nobody cares about who he thinks is great. They care about him.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you've got the same vibe with Jimmy, and
Mm.
Page, and they were astounded, and they liked our albums, but we were under the cloak of, shall we say, Led Zeppelin. If perhaps we hadn't been on Led Zeppelin, because they broke up pretty much, because of Robert's disastrous vibe with his family.
Mm.
There was a dark shadow over that. So it didn't, we were not aligned with what we thought we would be, which is the biggest band in the world, at that
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of sorrow and a lot of sadness. And to be honest with you, a lot of narcotics.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I hear on It Takes One to Know One sonics that are in the ballpark of Zeppelin, like in Through the Outdoor, but it came out a couple of years prior.
Mm.
Were Jimmy and Robert actually listening to Detective? Because
You tell me.
I'm
What do you
thinking, like a lot of people think, you guys are, not ripping off, but in the, sort of the influence Zeppelin. But I'm actually hearing the actual
the other way
reverse,
around?
the other way around. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that something you've often thought? In Through the Outdoor sounded me like a detective album.
Well, I've never really wanted to answer that question for obvious reasons, but it's been so long ago now that you're
Yeah.
so profoundly correct, and that makes me happy in many ways because it was a singular band. We're not
Mm.
copying anybody. I didn't sound like Robert and didn't want to. I love his voice.
Yeah.
I don't go up there that high, and
Yeah.
I'm more a Stevie Marriott vibe down there. And
Yeah. Yes.
so, there's a lot of bands ripped us off.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking the
Show
use.
business.
Well, I'm thinking the. I mean, you guys had groove, but the use of the keyboards, and I'm just thinking that like Zeppelin took that idea of the keyboards and really to the power of 100 with John Paul Jones. But I can really hear that a lot of their influence on In Through the Out is through Detective, especially on the keyboards and a lot of the rhythmic. I mean, you had a monstrous drummer. I mean,
Oh, forget about it.
John Hyde
Yeah.
was he a nightmare to record in the studio with the producer just getting the sound right?
Oh God, so many different things happened. But to speak of John, I mean, he was an
Mm,
extraordinary rock and roll drummer, one of the great rock and roll drummers. He had a terrible accident, and perhaps you know the story. But look, if you've got a great drummer, you've got it.
yes,
Charlie was Keith Moon. It's
yes, yes,
Baker. It's not like a secret. It's a groove. If you've got the
yeah,
groove, you know. you're going to write good songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I work closely with him. Everybody thinks, well, it's the lead guitar player and the singer. They're gonna get down and write. That's
Mm.
not the case at all. For me, I know the words. I know what to say. I know what I feel, and I know what people want to feel and how to deal with what they feel. But I'd rather write a song with a drummer than I would with a guitar player. I know that sounds pretty ludicrous, but that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's what the remastering of these albums really, from a high fidelity point of view, your ears just listen to the drums and it just pops out of the speakers and just makes this really special. So,
It really does. It
uh,
really does. He's amazing.
absolutely.
I'm so glad you like that. I'll tell him because, he's not like that. He had this terrible accident, which is
Yeah.
awful to think about. But he'd be
Mm,
pleased to hear you say that with your
yeah,
confidence and with how much you've been in the business. You know that the drums is the most important thing. It just is.
it is.
You know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely thunderous. Look, I hate to say this, and you're probably sick of hearing this, but can you dispel the rumors that Jimmy Page was nowhere in any of these sessions on Detective? There are no guitar lines from Jimmy Page, because I've read a lot of stories that, oh, yeah, there's a rumor that Jimmy Page played on Detective. Can you just once more just say Jimmy Page wasn't on this album in any shape or form?
Well, Jane Mansfield played bass for us. I didn't know if you knew that.
Okay, I think that answers it perfectly. Yeah. The
She
first
was great. She was fantastic. I'm not kidding, Peter. One of the greatest bass players in the history of rock and roll, Jane Mansfield. Isn't that odd? And she
Absolutely.
played naked too, which is, there she is with just the cans on, and yeah. What can I tell you?
Well, you know,
Rock and roll spirit, baby.
today's misinformation is truth, isn't it? YouTube, anything is truth if you want to believe it.
That's a great title. Anything is truth.
Anything is truth. You know what I get sick of? I get sick of it's my truth. So
Yeah.
it's like you lie, but it's my truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's just our band. We played the music, and they were in and out, and a dreadful thing happened to Robert, obviously, and that
mm,
kiboshed the vibe, the feeling of the whole thing.
yeah, absolutely. Now, the first Detective album and It Takes One to Know One were released in a short space of time from each other. Were they separate recording sessions, or were they pulled from the same recording session and just two separate albums?
No, we didn't do it at once. We went
Yeah.
out on the road, and did, night after night after night, and really got
Hmm.
tight. And as a result, we went in and did the second album because it was super tight.
Yeah.
But again, we're dealing with a label who is just fallen apart
Yeah.
because of dreadful things that happened to the great Robert Plant. And
Yeah.
and Jimmy, I think, had enough. It's difficult when you hit Mount Olympus.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go from Mount Olympus? And
Mm,
I think he quite cleverly stayed with that.
yeah. Was
And
this? Yeah.
no, no, please.
Yeah. Was it a band decision to release the album quickly? The
Did it
second
what?
one. Was it a band decision to release the second album quickly, or a record company um,
I
decision?
think it had to be the record company because they
Mm,
were falling apart. They thought they might
yeah.
get an album that would make it all sense, but it that didn't work out that way.
Yeah, but it was a very 70s thing, wasn't it? To
Yeah,
lots of bands like Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, releasing like 2 or 3 albums within a year. So I was just interested to
yeah.
know, was that just like a 70s thing? You got a bit of momentum, just push the another album out within a short space of time.
Well, I think it's youth. I never wanted to push out any album. I wanted a
Mm,
fantastic album, but
yeah,
you're so young and you have things to say, you
yep,
know, from that level, from who you are and what you're going through, And I tried to write about when my life was
mm,
extremely decadent, and dark and
mm,
silver, and because I still had a bit of Silverhead in my head, and it was youthful joy and concern and what and how do you do it and just emotional. Rock and roll is just that, but it's a lot more than bump and grinding. There was a
Mm,
certain intellectualism to that band, as Led Zeppelin had. You
yeah,
know, Same thing.
yeah. What was your memories of recording the album? Was it a fast process, in and out, lots of, or did it take a lot longer?
No, it was pretty quick actually. But what happened was, and I hope this is all right to tell you, but
Sure.
we're in the record plant in LA. Zeppelin in LA was like Elvis in Hollywood.
Hmm.
Um, you know, there were people outside that studio, like, an audience. People would be there for hours. And so that was in your head. There was always people and some of them got in, and then, because Zeppelin were there, and so on and so on. We were there, and it was chaos. It was rock and roll chaos, which I adored.
Mm.
But when you had to go up there and get up on the mic and sing, then I close my eyes and I just get rid of what's happening out there. Even though I was young, I knew I had to concentrate. And so it almost added a degree of concentration because you had to get away from the noise of the outside. If there'd been nobody outside, I wouldn't have had the kind of energy, I don't think.
So yeah, that sort of energized you. Um,
They were an instrument in a sense.
Absolutely. Well, that's one thing that pops out of these two albums. There's a lot of energy, a lot of verve. So that's interesting to hear. Now, you're very candid in your past interviews about drugs. Were part of were prevalent. Were drugs a thing during the recording process, or it was kept separate? We're businesslike when we're laying down the tracks, and then we do that outside, or was it all sort of melded in? Was all a bit of a mix.
Melded.
Yeah. Did that overtake the recording process sometimes? Interrupt the
Yes.
process?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you amazed when you listen back to the album? Is there any memories that come back of certain things of, oh, this track, this took a long time to get it done, and there was some.
I didn't listen to it for ages,
Yeah,
and then I listened to it.
yeah,
I thought, wow, it was so well recorded and at the record plant, and we had a great engineer
yeah.
and great songs. It was really, I really liked it. At the time, though, it was tough because, and I'll be perfectly candid, I've been sober 44 years now of
Mm,
drugs and alcohol. But at that time, I was preeminently stoned
yeah.
on
Well, some great work came out of it. It's amazing.
well, freedom. There was a liberation, and then you got the song. You got that take was great.
Yeah,
Then you'd go off and do the cope because you're so happy that take was good.
yeah,
You know, it's an evolutionary kind of subjective situation.
yeah,
You're height. You hit that height or
yeah,
that note or something.
yeah,
And it just makes you want to bathe in something like cocaine. It's the
yeah,
oddest thing. It almost was like a gift. Okay,
yeah.
you've done your thing. Now you can go and do that. And it took me not so long, really, about it to, this is ludicrous. I'm listening to the bass player talk about Charles Dickens. I mean, this is impossible.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I was surrounded by people who, not just the band, but people in Hollywood and stuff. And it just,
mm,
that's my
yeah.
impression, coke addict. And I thought, that sucks. I don't want to do that anymore. And I think I was one of the first people to quit. And therefore, no, Michael doesn't want any. I was treated like that,
Mm,
which is when I left.
right. Um, it was pretty normal in the 70s though. There was a lot of bands that recorded albums in that sort of environment, was it? So, you know, can you listen to some music from certain bands and just think, I bet this was happening, even just sonically without knowing the background to it?
Absolutely. I can smell coke from a mile away. I
Yeah.
mean,
So,
I think that the rock and roll. So what does that mean? Rock and roll is love, is sex, right? So
mm,
and enjoyment and almost childlike.
yeah.
Uh, so you wouldn't say, well, Bob Dylan's do, you know what I mean? Bob Dylan is a poet, and so many people.
Mm,
Plant was a poet for that case, in that case,
yeah.
in a way. But it depends on what night it is. Some nights it's very studious and clever, and other nights it's just a mess, and you want to hear a mess. You want to feel big and loud. And
Yeah.
it's up to you. It's up to how you feel about it.
Yeah. Detective went out on the road and supported Kiss right in the middle of Kiss Mania. What was that
Mhm.
experience like?
Fabulous. I always loved Gene. I've known Gene what many, many years. I sang on his album,
Hmm.
solo album, if you recall. But I love Gene Simmons. I'm a showbiz guy, and I thought they were just absolutely exquisite, And I really liked the songs. They were catchy, and he was this, and Paul was the guy in the middle pouting. And I thought they were wonderful. And I like Gene to this day. I still see him.
With Detective supporting Kiss,
Yes,
were they
Hitler.
were they a hard audience to win over?
Oh, impossible. I mean, it was so hard. It really was because they just were waiting so much for this band because they were very young, the audience, by the way, because they were in costume. It was an act and a wonderful act. And we
Mm,
were just a scruffy bunch of rockers, and
mm,
we didn't have the lights, we didn't have the fire, we didn't have all of that,
mm.
We just had velvet trousers with holes in them, which is a pretty good description of the band. And but Gene loved it. Paul loved it. They thought we were a rocking band.
So
And
did you take it as a challenge that we'll show
uh,
you guys just every night? Okay, let's just go out there and 110%.
we were 110%. We didn't have to
Mm,
tell you one,
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, go. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
we amble out there, turn as loud as we could, and sing.
Mm,
Well,
yeah. What were the hardest? I mean, you've done a few supports. What was the hardest crowd? Were Kiss probably at top of the pops as the hardest audience to win over, or were there some worse?
this thing. I didn't even think about what was coming next. I was so egoic at
Mm,
that time that I could
yeah,
care less. It was my audience for that 45 minutes, and I couldn't care less
yeah.
what they did either. I mean, the first three rows are having a good time, and where all the
Mm,
girls were, and all the boys are back there going, yeah, you know. I'm going,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I'm cute, right? I'm pretty handsome. You want to be as handsome as me, right? And I would just tease,
yeah,
and the girls would go, oh, he's so cute.
yeah.
It's a different vibe. We were very, very confident,
Yep, absolutely.
shook up by anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so tracks were recorded for a third album. What happened to the album and for that matter with the band? Did it just sort of peter out?
Zeppelin, over.
Yeah, okay.
Robert's child gone.
Yeah,
Jim is in another world, and John Paul Jones just carried on producing, and Bonzo was dead.
yeah,
So yeah, we had to. Well, I really wanted to do something else. I think a movie came up or something, and I used it as a reason to stop. I mean, because I was really wanted to stop narcotics. It was not doing us good at all. But I love those two albums. I think they were really well played and smart and enjoyable, and I'm very proud of them.
and so you should be because they sound contemporary. Because there's some music sounds dated. It sounds very much of its time, but you listen to these albums and it's timeless.
It is. I think lyrically, it's got a really good stance in terms of what we were at that age, or what I was, since I wrote the thing. And John, great writer too. Great. lyricist. And we just meant it, and it wasn't like a fake thing. I think people liked that, and it was tough. A great drummer. You have good lyrics and a good drummer,
You're on
that's
your
good.
way. You're on your
You're on
you're
your
on
way. We couldn't go any further because Swan Song disappeared.
yeah. Yeah.
And a couple of us were doing the cocaine nonsense for just a little bit too long.
A little bit too long. Didn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
Mm. I want to talk about the wonderful Silverhead. Um, Great band. Um, Now, I understand Andrew Lloyd Webber was a
Mm.
guiding force prior to the start of Silverhead. Can you explain the connection with Andrew Lloyd Webber and how he fits
I
into this?
was only 19 or something, and I was on the West End, and
Mm,
I was an actor and had done To Sir with Love and all of that. And I was playing it was nude. It was a nude thing, naked stuff. And I was playing a rock and roll star, right? So, so Andrew Lloyd Webber, who was at the height of his fame for obvious reasons, um, came to see it. And he came backstage and he says, well, look, um, I'm a composer. I said, oh, really? I thought you were a ventriloquist. And he was funny, and he was fast. Well, Michael, what I'd like to do is to try and find a label, a manager. I said, what for? He said, sing. I said, well, I'm not versed, if you'll pardon the pun. And he said, well, I think you can do it. And what he did was he got a studio. This is all true. Addressing sort of a way you would learn how to, and they had people come in. Andrew, and and they all Nigel, who went on to Blondie, and amazing these youngins. We were all very young, and off we did. Silverhead. There it was. It was unbelievable. Came to LA and met Miss Pamela and stayed. I've been here ever since.
absolutely. Glam rock was a real juggernaut in the early 70s in the UK. Bolan, Bowie, Slade. What was the inspiration for the band, both musically and visually? Those bands, or you had your own sort of inspiration?
Well, we were glam rock. As opposed to glam rock. I just want to look cute, and wear makeup,
Mm,
that
yeah.
stuff. I mean, the music, listen, I was raised on Otis Redding,
Mm,
it was all about, and so were they. So I'm not going back to, Zeppelin or whoever, whatever the bands were. I didn't think I want to be just like the Stones.
mm.
I mean, I just wanted to wear fantastic outfits, have lots of girls and hashish, and write songs of lust and love.
Yeah. Through Andrew Lloyd Webber, there was an association with Ian Gillan through Jesus Christ Superstar, which led to a contract with Purple Records. What was that experience with Purple Records or the Deep Purple family?
I don't remember. I mean,
Yeah.
well, the thing is there was nothing to remember. All I knew was, it just came like that for me, and I really owe a great love for Andrew. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. But and he did that for me, and I was just playing. Literally, I was an actor, and I was playing the role of a front man in a decadent rock and roll band. And then suddenly I thought, wait a minute, I can sing. I can actually sing. So if I can sing, I can write. Okay, I'm going to write and I'm going to sing. And then that caught me, and then I understood what it was all about. But it was just another role for me, another, theatrical role. And then it became from a role to a rock and roll. And I believed in it. I believed in rock. I was absolutely very important what the songs were and, lyrically and all of it. I dived into it. It wasn't something, it was a party, but it was a party of people that really wanted to do a good job.
There's a lot of energy on those albums, and it sounds really accomplished. Was there a lot of work to get it done?
No,
Mm,
did it for days.
wow, just in and out, a lot of spontaneity.
Oh yeah, they
Mm,
didn't want to do it twice.
yeah,
They will say that they're all Cockney kids. So that's enough, Michael. Come on, listen to it. It's fucking amazing. What do you want to do another one for? And I said, we're not going to do another one. You
Yeah.
know,
What's your theory, Michael? Do you think a lot of sometimes rock, there are some productions that have just taken years where, they're
oh,
taking months just to record a chord, not mentioning any names, but we know the suspects. Do you think
Pink
rock is
Floyd is a hell of a band. No,
Do you think
I,
rock is spontan? Do you think rock should be just spontaneous, just
yes,
in and out?
of course, of course. That's what
Mm,
Elvis did. Elvis went in there without a drummer, and it was number
yeah,
one. In the beginning, as you know. But Elvis is my hello. There he is. Can you see him?
absolutely.
And so, it just seemed to be easy. That's the only way. I would never spend a week on a verse. Well, I
Mm,
mean, that to me is Lucifer. Awful. I want to get in and get out, and not think. See, thinking is so overrated in rock and roll.
yeah, it got crazy in the '80s, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Did you have
But
a
just
theory? Do you know why? Have you got a theory why it just went down that
because
path?
everybody, well, I think because everybody wanted to get laid and lipstick and hairspray and
Mm,
they were like young kids, some brilliant and without even knowing it, and
mm,
they just wanted to have fun and then they really got into it. And but if you really look at the study, the '80s bands, what happened to them? Most of them got fat and got rich and lasted 5 albums tops. Don't you think?
mm,
You know, so I was looking at a longer version of stuff, to be able to go sing for as long as I wanted, and I've done that, The '80s was a very obscure, it was like wearing too much makeup, on boys and girls, it's like, there was so much money going around then, so
yeah. But
everybody,
you saw it before. See,
yeah,
like you're in LA and you're seeing all
yeah.
the hair metal come up and Sunset Strip, and you're probably thinking, oh, alas, I've been here before,
Yeah,
albeit in a previous decade.
I couldn't put it together better than
Mm,
that.
yeah,
The difference being there were only a few bands in the '70s that were, going to burst into the '80s. The
yeah.
'70s was bands that couldn't take their clothes to the dry cleaners. The '80s was the band who bought dry cleaners.
I think that's a good analogy.
So,
um,
so
so
there's
when the band Silverhead went out on the road, was the band fully formed to play, or did it take time to get their sound together?
they were great. They were great. It was
Straight off
me.
of that, yeah.
The lads, they were amazing musicians. Andrew,
Mm,
I had never been on the road. And they had played like crazy. Nigel, unbelievable bass player, Rod,
mm,
guitar player, and Robbie Blunt. I mean, and Pete Thompson. They all were in different bands, is my point. And I fell into it and I just lapped it up. I was
yeah,
so excited by it, it was so fun and
yeah.
playing at the marquee and people going crazy, and then you going back to the marquee a couple of days later and Jimi Hendrix is there, with Noel Redding and Mitch. And Mitch, I was at drama school with Mitch, so it's all connected. Mitch Mitchell, of course, the drummer with Jimi Hendrix, we were doing ballet at the fucking drama school in London. And then at night he goes, here, Mike, well, come and see this geezer down in this club. He's a black geezer. He plays left hand. He's really good. Come down and see him. And this is me. What? And the front row, Townsend, Clapton, Jeff Beck, everybody's in the front row going, oh God, this is terrible. He's too good. And that was a major moment, man.
So, have you had a moment when you've been on stage and just looking at the crowd down there, and you see somebody and you just almost just stop in the song and go, "Oh shit!"
No,
Mm,
no. No, the best thing to do when you're the front man is to look at the back of the hall
Yep.
If you're looking at the front of the hole, they see the top of your head.
Yeah.
If you look at where you're up and you feel up, you're not like, oh,
Mm.
right. It sort of cuts it down. The audience starts to, if you're out, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
If you
absolutely.
sing into the back of the room, if you don't sing to the back of the room, you won't last long.
And that's a segue to my next part of the interview where we go to 1985 and Live
Right?
A. Power Station. You're not singing to the front there. You're singing to the rafters and the world. And what a whirlwind year for you, 1985. Fond memories.
Well, Obsession was number one all over the world. The
Got to
song
talk
that I
about that too.
Right, with Holly. And no, what happened was, it was an amazing situation because I was in Miami. I'll tell you the story real quick. I was in Miami with Don Johnson, right? Obviously doing Miami Vice. And he's a friend of mine since forever. And I get a call. Um, and it was, Michael, we would like you to come to New York City to talk about being the singer in, the power station because Robert Palmer has decided that he doesn't want to appear in front of young ladies, but that he wants to appear in middle-aged ladies. I'm kidding. But anyway, so I fly to New York. I get to New York. I'm in a limo. It's waiting for me. I go off to into the city. I go up in the elevator into this office, managerial rock and roll office, and there's John and Tony Thompson shivering. And they go, Michael, listen, what? I mean, because they'd seen me play. Duran Duran had seen me play, because we opened for them and in that band. And he says, look, would you like to go out? Do you have the time to go out on the road? And I said, well, yeah, how long? Well, 5 months. I said, well, we'll have to talk about that. And he said, yes, we will have to talk about it. And you've got to get on a plane and go to London and talk to Andy, right? So what happens? A limo is downstairs. I get in the limo, I go to the fucking airport. They've already got the ticket. I go to London and I go straight to the studio. I wait 5 hours. Andy comes in tiny with a bodyguard and he goes, all right, Michael, well, what you want to do? I said, I'll sing one of your songs. Yeah. Get it on or something. And he goes, yeah, let's do that. Go on, get it on, get on. And because he was telling everybody what to do because he was a Duran, and they were huge at that time. And I sing a verse and a chorus, and he goes, hits the button and goes, let's go shopping. I said, what? He said, let's go shopping. You like clothes, don't you? I love clothes. I want to go shopping with you. You're the singer. There's no doubt about that. I go, oh, great. Yeah, let's go shopping. So we went shopping and I bought all these fucking suitcases of spectacular clothes. And then I fly back to New York. Danny Goldberg was my manager, and I love Danny Goldberg to this day. So it's 7 a.m. The phone rings, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I guess we're going to go to rehearsals or something. The phone rings, and it's Danny saying, you're out. Robert Palmer's back. And I go, can I keep my clothes? I said to him, and I said, and then like half an hour later, he goes, no, 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 you're still there, you're still there. The money wasn't right, and so on and so forth. You got it, you're doing it. And I went to rehearse. 4 days later, where am I? Live Aid.
Gee whiz. That's like,
Hello, right? So I went, so there I am at Live Aid with the power station on their second gig, right? And my first,
wow.
right? Because they did some kind of thing, but without singers. So I arrived there and we do 10 minutes. And it was very interesting on my ego because a lot of people, guys especially, going, where's Robert Palmer? And I would go, blow them a kiss and stay cool, because he is brilliant. And an incredible songwriter and dearly departed. And I adored him and knew him, and was a huge fan. But what happened was, he didn't want to be in a rock and roll band. He's a rhythm and blues singer, or jazz singer too. And I had to get through that with the press. So I got a couple of good notations from the dreadful rock and roll press, and then that was good. And then people went, "Oh, he can do it. He can do it." Because I had to learn all those songs, man, that quick. And this was the day where there was no little TVs down there going, "What's that said?" You know, you didn't have that in those days. You had to learn it. And so I learned it, because I'm an actor. I really fucking learned it, and I go out there and I pumps around and youngins look at me and the old guys going, why aren't I up there in tight trousers? Whatever's going on in their brain and why they want to be aggressive because they want to be you.
Yeah. I think that's a remarkable story. That is like whirlwind. And looking back at the performance, you just slip in, you work in the crowd, and it just seems natural.
Yeah.
Just
This is great.
no butterflies you just seem so confident. You're just into it.
Yeah. It's the only way, because I'd done 1,000 gigs, and that was just happened to be a big audience, but it's just
Mm.
another audience. It just
Yeah.
happened to be 70,000 people, not 1,500, the
Just
whiskey,
just
right?
just a big one. Yeah. What were your
But
memories of the performance? Was it did it just sort of go like that to you when
for me, yeah, the band was
just
more than
like
happy, because I got them going,
mm,
because I was very nervous. We had horns, we had girls, we had all of that stuff. It was a huge band,
mm,
an extraordinary vibe. And I just went from left to right, and then some guy, some butch guy, threw a bucket of water all over me. And as it was coming at me, I just dodged and it went straight past. And I just went, I love you. And he went,
yeah.
right. And I told, and they all looked at him and, girls were slapping him. And I was
That
going, no, no, don't slap him. I'll slap him later. You know,
that's why you're a great frontman, Michael. You know what to do. That's all part of 101, Duck.
I know one, dodge, and catch it if you can. I tried to catch it. It was, you know, I feel bad for those people that, don't see somebody enjoying themselves. It's a sad thing. It's a
Yeah.
sad,
Are
the
there
girl, all about
any
the
other
girl.
performances on the day that left an impact to you?
No, it's terrible. All of them.
Mm,
I mean, Mick, everybody, terrible. Dylan. And by the way, I'm sober now. There, I was sober. So we're all
yep.
in the same hotel. So we all go back to the hotel. It's me and DJ, because Don came with me
Mm,
and introduced us to the audience. Jagger, Keith, all of the big rock and roll stars are all in this one kind of big thing. And they're all out of their minds. And they all played so badly and did such lousy work, you know. Tried to get away. He had Ronnie Wood and Keith, and Dylan, and it was hopeless. They were all in the wrong key. And even Dylan afterwards said, "Hey, that was a no mess, a fucking mess," you know, and it was. And a lot of it,
mm,
and Mick and Tina, and it all seems so kind of show busy.
yeah, yeah. And also Zeppelin, they copped a bit of flack for their set, which
Terrible, terrible. They didn't
yeah.
have a drummer. They didn't rehearse. They didn't have a drummer. It was a
Mm,
disaster.
yep,
Tina was great.
yep,
She was great. And Joan Baez, who I like very much and know to this day, was great. But you've got young kids there wanting to hear rock and roll. I didn't want to hear a folk singer.
yeah,
Donna, no.
yeah,
And yet it was the greatest show ever, in terms of sales. And Bob Geldof, who I really dislike, for many, many reasons. He's just really thinks he's the bee's knees. and that he knows everything about everything, and it's really a bore. And what happened to the Boomtown Rats? Well, what happened to the Boomtown Rats is they went boom,
Mm,
if you're listening.
yeah, yeah, got it. Um, were you hopeful that the performance at Live Aid was going to lead to a second album with you fronting the band?
I never thought about tomorrow.
Yeah,
Mistake. You know
but
that.
but you did record the song "We Fight for Love." So
I
was that?
wrote it,
Yeah. So
you
was
know,
that a? Yeah.
well, the producer of the movie with Schwarzenegger was I knew the producer, and he said, "You get a song? Would you do a song? You're the fucking band,
Mm,
you know." And
mm,
I did it, wrote the thing, and Andy, brilliant guitar player. John is so enthusiastic. We made a great record. "We Fight for Love" was the title, and
mm,
and that was a good, and they used it. And
yeah,
that was good for me.
absolutely. And emotion, obsession. Are you? That song has seems to have a life of its own. Top 10 around the world. Were you surprised that that song just popped out and became a
Very
big
much
hit?
so. Absolutely. I mean, I did it with Chapman, first.
Yeah,
Um, with
I've even
my,
got a copy. There you go, the old
oh,
animation.
wow, you've got it. Yeah. No, I mean, it was magic, Mike Chapman, I recorded it with Holly Knight, who I wrote it with, and it's very
Yes.
neat to be able to write with such a brilliant writer as Holly Knight.
Mm,
And we wrote it and we did it, and it was not a hit, and they did it, and it was number one in 27 countries, and still puts food on the table. Thank you.
well, I hear it in soundtracks. There's a lot of stuff, it just pops up in commercials and
I know it's
soundtracks. It's
insane. And the hook is, "Who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me?" I mean,
mm,
and you're selling biscuits. You know what I mean? Fantastic.
yeah,
Because it really is every year, and I'm not exaggerating, I could just live off that, you know. I mean, and
yeah,
it's, what did I wrote the words in about 10 minutes? You know how it is. When you really are like happening and you're really focused, you do great work without thinking. It's thinking that fucks you up. Being is how to do it. Just be, and you'll get it. You'll get what you're feeling, and then people will understand what you're feeling, and you'll find a good hook, a good title, and it'll be real.
yeah.
That's why
Well,
the music 80s was made in computers. And now look what's happened in terms of computerized, modern music. There isn't any. You know,
yeah,
Steve Tyler and Joe Perry not going to go in and make a record with guitar, bass, drums, and it's all machines, whoever you
mm,
are. And that's why they're not doing anything. And also they're 70 years old. So,
yeah.
just to make an example.
You've been doing a radio show on Sirius FM for a while
Yeah.
now, Little Stevens Underground. Does playing music around the world or from other acts keep the fires burning creatively for you?
Well, I love doing it. That's all I can say. Stevie, he is an incredible person, and he called me up, and his wife had seen me. I had a little interview program online. This is years ago. This is at least 14, 15 years ago. I was interviewing people, and she saw me doing it, and Andrew Lou Goldham, the brilliant icon of English rock and roll music, the Stones and so on, managing them and all of that. Great guy. He didn't want to do it anymore, and he didn't get along with Stevie, so he went. Maureen Van Zandt whispers in, the great SVZ's ear, "Get MDB because he knows what he's talking about. And she knew me and blah blah blah. So then that happened, and that really changed my life because it did this. It took away my ego of my own work and made me want to bring other music to people that isn't mine. That was a huge spiritual change, right?
Mm,
Because I'm loving the adulation and also the people that didn't dig me. I didn't care. You learn how to deal with all that. But I didn't have to do any of that. Now I'm playing the Drifters, or I'm playing, the Clash, or whatever it is. I've been doing it 12 years now.
Yes.
Every day, every week, Monday through Friday, I play for 3 hours great music, which isn't mine, which absolutely negated my egoic sensibility and turned me into a guy who appreciates music rather than makes it.
Yeah.
However, I have made a lot of music too, and I've had hits,
Yeah.
and
That's a segue. Last solo album, It's Only Rock and Roll, came out in 2014. Have you got
yeah,
any plans to release another album in the future?
oh yeah, yes, I have.
Give me the
I,
scoop. What have you got planned?
I'm going to do an album, guitar, bass, and drums, and me.
Hmm.
It's ready to go. I go off to New York, and Stevie's going to produce it.
Excellent.
And I'm telling you, man, it's like the Who kind of. I mean, it's really tough. The guitar player, Lauren Molyneux from Detroit City, it's like the Stooges. It's
I've,
like
I've
going back.
He's a great guy. I've interviewed him.
Oh,
He's really
I
interesting guy.
really adore him. And we wrote this new one, and have you seen it? It's like number one in all of those radios, the song. And it's beautiful. It's so rocking, It's called
Mm,
Kiss or Kill Me.
mm,
Kiss or Kill Me Tonight. And that's
mm.
an urgency that rock and roll has lost.
Yep.
And what I want to do, Peter, and I think you're going to like it, is it's very simplistic, but it's really loud and it's really fucking rocking, and his microphone's falling over and all of that because it's such a tense thing. And I believe that we need a kick in the ass because we're just getting clever songs. Clever? Rock and roll was never clever. Rock and roll is below the belt, motherfucker.
With all its imperfections, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, that's the album title. I'll steal it. But it's you're out. I'm not going to give you any money. But it's
Uh,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about, and I can't wait. And I go there. I think it's in a couple of weeks. I go and we finish it off, and it's
well,
going to be out there. You're going to love it.
telling me who's playing on the album gives me confidence it's going to be a
Well,
ripper.
Lauren Molyneux is playing on the.
He's the biz. He's
He's the beast, and I've written that song. Have
mm.
you heard it? Kids Will Kill Me Tonight. Have you heard
No,
it?
no, I haven't. I will. I'll
I
uh,
go,
I'll I'll, I'll
listen
try.
to it. It's been number one in all sorts of different places.
Absolutely, and I'll put the link down to this show so every folks can check it out. Hey,
That would be,
I follow you on Facebook, and I have to say that you're one of the most positive people on
oh,
Facebook
yes.
because there's a lot of negativity out there in social media. But one thing I always see you smiling, looking at the best out of life. Doesn't matter what circumstances. Like there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in LA, but you're there and being positive, and it's a real joy to follow you on Facebook and just to
Thank you.
see
Thank you.
you've got a little bit of positivity for everybody, your followers every day.
Everyone. I love everybody, Um, Peter, thank you for saying that. What other life would you want to live than a positive life? A life that, you want people to succeed. I want people to be in love.
Mm,
I want them to be happy because there is no happiness in the world. In here in England, there's fear and people are hiding, and it makes me sick. And so, therefore, I try and send out love to the people as much as I can and try and be funny with it and charming and comedic and the last thing I want to appear is that awful sort of above it all. I'm not above it all. I am it all. You are it all. We're all. There's no prince and princess and kings and queens. There's no servants. Makes me sick.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'm going to put this up again, folks. Check this out, Detective. It takes one to know one. And this special edition has a special track, a mystery track. You've just got to buy it. Scarlett told me to say that, but I'm adding it in. Anything I can do. Yeah, anything I can do. But look, it's a cracker. And as I said earlier, it sounds contemporary. It doesn't sound dated. It sounds like it was recorded in 2026.
It's so true. It's so funny you say that because I played it with my wife and we just sat there going, "Who's that?"
Who's that guy singing?
Yeah, who's that? He's good at geezer, and it just sounded so fresh. And it was 52 years ago.
Absolutely.
Dude, this has been such a fun
Michael DeBar, it's been a pleasure. I'd love to get you back. I didn't talk about your film work because we're focusing on you're a triple threat. I can only talk about one of the threats, but I'd love to get you back on the show sometime again. And
anytime you want. I've had a delightful
talk more. It's just been delightful. So, Rock Day Dream Nation, folks, Michael DeBar, check out Detective, check out Sirius FM, everything. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, mate.
Peace and love. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye,
Thank
Peter.
you.
I'll see you again.